Testing visual acuity. In this video, testing visual acuity will be divided into three parts: distance visual acuity, pinhole visual acuity, and near visual acuity. Distance visual acuity. Visual acuity refers to the angular measurement relating testing distance to the minimal object size resolvable at that distance. A Snellen chart is used at a distance of 20 feet or 6 meters. The numerator corresponds to the distance at which the patient can read the letters in the Snellen chart. The denominator corresponds to the distance at which a person with normal eyesight can read what the patient can read on the Snellen chart. The normal visual acuity is 20/20. What the patient can read at 20 feet, a person with normal eyesight can read at 20 feet. For example, if the patient can read the fourth line, LDAT, then the patient will have a visual acuity score of 20/50. This means what the patient can read at 20 feet, a normal person can read it at 50 feet.
Testing distance visual acuity. Ask the patient to stand or sit at a designated testing distance 20 feet from a well-illuminated Snellen chart or 4 meters from a ETDRS wall chart. Examine the poorer eye. If there is no poorer eye, the right eye is examined first. Ask the patient to make sure that the occluder is not touching or pressing against the eye. Observe the patient to make sure there is no conscious or inadvertent peeking. Ask the patient to say out loud each letter or number, or name the picture object on the lines of successively smaller optotypes, from the left to right until the patient correctly identifies only half the optotypes on a line. Note the corresponding acuity measurement shown on that line of the chart. Record the acuity value separately with correction and without correction. If the patient misses half or fewer than half the letters on the smallest readable line, record how many letters were missed. Conversely, if the patient reads the next line but does not reach half the letters, record how many letters were read in excess.
Okay, read it for me.
D, E, F, P, O, T, E, C.
Okay, very good. Okay, now we're going to cover up
Repeat
your left eye.
on the
Same
opposite
thing.
eye.
Again, whatever line you can read, let me know.
8.
8 again, okay.
D, E, F, P, O, T, E, C.
Repeat again while the patient is using corrective lenses. If the patient does not have corrective lenses, proceed to testing pinhole visual acuity.
Testing pinhole visual acuity. Position the patient and test the poorer eye first. Ask the patient to hold the pinhole in front of the eye that is to be tested. Instruct the patient to look at the distance chart through the single pinhole. Instruct the patient to use small hand or eye movements to align the pinhole to resolve the sharpest image on the chart. Have the patient read the line with the smallest letters that are legible, as determined on the previous vision test without the use of a pinhole. Record the Snellen acuity obtained and proceed with the abbreviation. There is no need to have the patient come nearer during a pinhole test. If the patient could not read the chart, record as not improved on pinhole.
Place the pinhole over the eye you are testing and instruct the patient to try to read the letters through one or other of the many tiny holes. Remind patients that the light will be dim and that they may have to search to see the letters.
Reporting the results should be as follows. For the right eye, visual acuity is 20/100, improved to 20/70 with correction, and further improved to 20/50 with pinhole. For the left eye, visual acuity is 20/100, improved to 20/70 with correction, and not improved through pinhole. Note that visual acuity must improve or stay the same in testing from without correction to with correction to pinhole. If the vision worsens, write not improved.
If the patient could not read the biggest optotype line, have the patient come nearer until the patient can see the biggest optotype line. Record the acuity value, reducing the numerator by the distance the patient came nearer with. The denominator will remain 200. Continue doing so until the patient is 5 feet away from the Snellen chart. If the patient still could not read the largest optotype line 5 feet away, begin having the patient count the examiner's fingers 5 feet away from the patient. Record finger counting as CF equals distance. If the patient still could not see and count the examiner's fingers, have the examiner wave his or her hand and ask if the patient could see the examiner's hand movement. Vary the examination, alternating moving the hand and keeping it still. Make sure that the examining hand that is waving is not too close as for the patient to feel its presence. If the patient still could not see the examiner's hand, test the patient for light projection. To do this, use a pen light and illuminate the eye being examined and illuminate it from 4 different quadrants, namely superiorly, temporally, inferiorly, and nasally. Ask the patient if he or she can identify the direction where the light is coming from and record it accordingly. If the patient can identify all 4 quadrants, record it as good light projection. If the patient could not identify all quadrants, record the identified quadrants accordingly. If the patient could still not identify the direction where the illuminating pen light is coming from, illuminate the light directly onto the patient's eye and ask the patient if he or she can identify the presence of light. If the patient can identify the presence of light, record it as light perception. Otherwise, record it as no light perception.
If the patient doesn't know how to read the letters, try using the number chart, the tumbling E chart, or the Landolt C chart.
Testing near acuity. Check near vision with and without correction, with the patient wearing the habitual corrective lens for near and the near card evenly illuminated. Instruct the patient to hold the test card at the distance specified on the card, usually 14 inches. Examine the poorer eye or the eye in complaint. Ask the patient to say each letter or read each word on the line of smallest characters that are legible on the card. Record the acuity value for each eye separately in the patient's chart. Repeat the procedure with the other eye. Repeat the procedure with both eyes viewing the test card. Record the binocular acuity achieved.
If the patient could not read the largest optotype, place unable to read Jaeger chart. To report your findings, record letter size and distance. For example, if the patient could read number 9, record as J9 at 14 inches. These are the special cases in which you cannot use the standard Snellen chart to record visual acuity. For patients who are newborn and up to 3 months of age, shine a light on each eye and see if the patient will react to the light. Report it as either positive or negative dazzle. For patients who are 3 months up to 2 years, check if eyes are central, steady, and maintains fixation. Central means there are no tropias, steady means no nystagmus, maintains fixation, it fixates even when one eye is covered. Also check if the eye fixes and follows your visual target. Visual targets should not have any audible cues that would make the target give away its location. Report findings if normal as positive C, positive S, positive M, F, and F. In toddlers and preschool children, may do finger play at 20 feet if the patient is cooperative. Reported as FP equals to the distance taken. You may also use the Leia symbols chart if the patient is cooperative. It is used at a distance of 10 feet. Patient is given a card with symbols, which the patient has to point to depending on what the examiner pointed to at the chart.